Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a special episode of the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. We have Deborah Byrd on the show today. Deborah, thank you so much for being here.
You are welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. We're going to be discussing social media for loan officers and how to, I think, lead with value is probably going to come into the conversation as well. But before we do, could you give us a brief background of how did you get into the mortgage industry? How did you get into social media? What's your story? How did you get to be where you are today?
Oh, Chris, it's kind of a messy story. You may want a Snickers for those who are listening because it's probably not the norm. But so I've been in less than 10 years. In 2013, I was a middle school science teacher and girls athletic coach. And truth
Cool.
be told, when I was younger, my first degree was to be a nurse. I wanted to be the Patch Adams of the hospital. For anyone, some of the younger listeners may be like, "Who in the world is Patch Adams?" It's a movie with Robin Williams. But anyways, I really loved. It wasn't that I was always a great student, but as a teacher, I every year was like, "Give me all the kids nobody else wants," because I know they just need to be loved on, and I'll make them rock stars. And I taught science because it was the only subject, one, that you could blow things up in a lab, but two, you learned by failing. And I think a lot of times school can teach us to fear failure because you see the red X's on a paper. And if you get something wrong, it's bad. And if you fail, it's bad. But I really wanted to just wrinkle or interrupt the patterns of, you know what, you've got to fail to lead to new experiments, which leads to new truths. So, anyways, long story short, I was told I would never be able to have children. I then ended up having 4 kids in 5.5 years. None of them are multiples. And I was married to another teacher and coach. And I was like, how are we going to afford this? I mean, the daycare bill alone and diapers and medical and so my identical twin, who's the mortgage nerd, was like, you send me more closed deals a year than my top real estate agents. Why don't you get into the loan business? And I was like, are you crazy? Like my first degree is nursing, second degree education. Like I am not a salesperson. I didn't even take economics in college. Like I was dissecting frogs. But I had a pain of needing to make more money. So my first week after getting licensed, I went to the Todd Duncan Sales Mastery. And then shortly, a few months later, we went to High Trust Sales Academy. And that's when I was like, okay, I could do this. This is more of a consultative type approach where I don't feel like I'm selling, but I didn't have a clue how mortgages work. I mean, I had one, but I didn't even know really what escrow was at the time. So I did all the certifications, and I don't know if there could have been a more ruthless teacher or coach than your own identical twin. He wasn't always very nurturing through the process, and I did cost her quite a bit of money. A few times I would forget to roll in MI on a conventional loan, and I was like, "Oh boy, we're a couple days from closing, and now this person doesn't qualify." But long story short, I was helping her grow her team and business partners, and really fell in love with just the educational side of taking what wasn't in the school system, but yet I also had first-hand experience of seeing what financial stress does in the classroom for the kids or the parents, and translating it to helping borrowers. But as much as I was succeeding, and there could be some people who relate to this, I almost felt like it was this hollow victory inside of like, okay, I'm really good at it, but it just, when I felt selfish, I was like, I feel like I'm not making enough of an impact. And maybe it's because when I coached, I had 180 kids every year that looked up to me, and they would, the feedback I would get from that was just a little bit bigger. And so that's when I was like, what if, because at the time social wasn't as big as it is today. I thought, here we are building divorce attorney businesses, financial advisors, CPAs. I'm like, I'm really good at business and strategy. And so I just started Googling and YouTube. Like, thank God for YouTube. I don't think I slept much. And in between nursing every 3 hours, I just would learn about behavioral design and behavioral economics and the psychology of sales and marketing and just little things that fascinates me. And so I kind of self-taught. I mean, and grew my way just with helping her team. And that's when I was like, I'm ready to burn the boats and do this. Like there's a bigger need out there for loan officers who they may work for a company that has a great marketing department, but they just don't want what everybody else is posting in the company on the same day at the same time. Or
Yep.
there's other subscription models that everyone is posting the same thing. And I knew what that felt like as a loan officer, where I always wanted my stuff to be a little bit different. And so we create, Chris, like multiple versions of content depending on areas in the country so that no one is posting the same thing every day. And we just, we eat, breathe, and sleep this content so that we can have multiple threads and hopefully change the way Americans get into debt. Just one social post at a time, as corny as it may sound, we really believe that the consistent messaging of this educational content will create a ripple effect and teach through the vessels of these loan officers who actually care to give good advice. So the journey was not always that. I left out some of the messier parts with just my sister and I did venture off the team because I was that production partner that was like, I do all the work. I'm pulling all the credit reports and you're like just out here doing happy hours. And so I did go out on my own and realized how much harder it was when you didn't have the consistent lead flow and the systems and the process. And I'd eat my humble pie and come back to the nerd squad and you know, put my tail between my legs and say, okay, sis, I'm ready to actually learn it now. So that's it in a nutshell. In a very short period of time, I've been able to 20x my income of what it was and really build wealth and have financial freedom that allows me to do what I feel called to do. And I'm so grateful that because of the mortgage industry, I would not have gotten there, nor would I have gotten there without selling multiple properties to get us out of debt when we were having all these kids. Um, Real estate is truly a wealth building machine. If people could just
Yep. And understand it. Okay. So there's so much there to
yeah.
unpack. And I love the leading through service and wanting to make a difference, because we're all in the mortgage business, obviously, to provide for our families and to build our independent wealth. But going about it in a way that really is based around service, I think that that's a really important concept to translate over to social media. Because when you have that lens and your true mindset is, how do I educate people? How do I help people? That's when you're going to generate the most amount of leads. That's when you're going to have the most amount of impact. That's when you're really going to make that impact in the market. So with all of your content that you produce, and so it's plugandplaysm.com is your website, and you produce content, social media content for loan officers specifically, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're making that content, what lens are you framing it through? Is it just random social media content? Is it always based on service? Like, how do you come up with the content for the loan officers? What are great ways to find ideas on what to post?
So a couple different ways, and it is usually dependent on the client's main goal. So some clients are using it where they're wanting to get new eyeballs or new accounts who have never seen them, and maybe they're newer in the industry and they're trying to fill a need where they just need leads and they're wanting social to help with that. So it's doing more things like the reels or the TikToks or YouTube shorts, because we know that that is going to be seen by more people, especially with how the algorithms work with showing it to people who don't currently follow you. So that's one goal set that some clients have. And the other side is, it's really just for social proof or brand awareness where they're building their business off of referrals. And they know just through all the data and the statistics, in fact, the recent article from NAR, just the home buying stats and how many people start online, but then they also stay online where they're in this constant state of consideration, where the millennial and Gen Zs, like the brand loyalty thing doesn't really exist much with them, where you do have to constantly stay top of mind. So it's more for that moment that someone is given their name and the consumer behavior goes to, say, Instagram, and they put in the name. And they may never like, follow, or comment your account because they don't want to be creepy. They may feel like a creeper if they're like, who's this person following me? Because it sends you a notification. They just want to peek behind the curtain. And what they're really doing is judging you. They're
Yep.
immediately looking for warmth and competency. Are you going to protect my self-interest, or are you going to take advantage of me on interest rates and fees? And so depending on the loan officer's goal, we're then using different search engines and different tools to see what is of most value to our current buyer in today's market. Because I don't believe in just doing a post to do a post because someone told you you should be on social. So you're just trying to check it off your to-do list for the day.
Yep.
We want to make sure everything is valuable based off their known problem, but also going deeper to the unknown problem they may not be able to see because they just don't have the awareness yet. Like a renter who is 10 years into renting and they maybe would have thought they would have bought 5 years ago, but life happens. And so what is that really costing you? Or right now, it's a lot of building that buyer confidence because when rates start ticking down and that spring home buying season hits, it's then going to be that buyer frenzy again. So it's how do we make them get confident in the market? Because all they've heard chirping is prices are high and it's all these over asking, offers and rates are higher than they've ever been. And so it's getting very strategic and even amplifying like social listening. And I'll say that not a lot of people listen enough on social media. That is a powerful weapon. And just hanging out in different Facebook groups, whether it's loan officer groups or little, those single mom groups, or even just mom groups where people are saying, hey, I'm moving to Dallas, Texas. Do you know of a good agent or lender? And you're just trying to listen to what is it that your audience is asking? Because if they're asking, then that's valuable content. And so we're constantly tweaking and sometimes we throw in, depending on the loan officer, if they're wanting to acquire more real estate partners or divorce attorneys, then what content are we creating to attract those types of partnerships? So a lot of it is our client driven. And then for some, they're like, I just need something. And we trust you enough to make it a perfect cocktail because we don't have anything. And truth be told, I don't even know how to upload an image to Instagram. We have all different levels of clients and varying needs.
Huh. That's very interesting. So you mentioned realtor partners, and I'm very interested in that because we see a tremendous amount of business that are coming through those referral relationships, especially in today's marketplace. Those buyers, the buyers that are actually motivated in today's marketplace, those are gold right now.
Right.
So how do you approach a client that comes to you and says, I want to generate realtor relationships from social media? What's the overarching strategy to that account?
First thing I'm going to ask them is why and who, because a lot of times they will tell me that, and it's kind of like the law of the bullseye that Todd Duncan always talks about is you could throw a dart and it could stick, but who is it that you want to work with, and how many of those can you actually carry that are doing business? So the first place that we start is I have access to a tool called MMI, and I look up their county or their area, and I will go, especially for today's market, I'm looking at the last 6 months, like who are on the buyer side, who's doing deals. Because if you're doing deals right now, you're probably going to win in the years to come because it's a tough market. Now, small disclaimer to that, I still believe you have to go and cast a wider net because your count per agent deal right now, they're down right now. It's
Yep.
like having a Happy Meal for a family of 10. It's just harder all the way around. So there's going to be some that have to get out of the business. And I hate that, but it probably needs to happen. So we will create a target list of who are the top buyers agents, who are they currently working with, because the tool also allows you to see who their loan officer partners are. And that's important for some because if it's someone in their branch or, so we get really strategic on what I call a hit list, and that's a horrible name for it. I should call it a hit list, but that's just to my mind, that's what I think of. And so we set up what's called a favorites feed. And if you didn't know this, on Facebook, you have up to 30 people that can be in your favorites feed. And on Instagram, it's up to 50. And so it's all about being super strategic and intentional with our time, because let's face it, social can also be dark hole, especially if anyone's ever gone on TikTok. I will look down, I'm like, oh my gosh, my alarm goes off in 2 hours and I'm still laughing as I'm scrolling on TikTok in the middle of the night. But it's like, how do we keep people focused? And whether some of our clients pay us to do this for them, or some we teach them how to do it, but we can click favorites feed. So it's only going to show us our highest priority partners that we're either already working with or currently working with. And the first place we start is we're engaging. We are showing them love. We want to be their biggest fan. we're making sure we're liking, commenting. The secret sauce is when you story comment, because then you go into the DM, and that's where conversions made, is in the DMs. So
Hmm.
sometimes it's never about business in the beginning. Like if they post a picture and they're driving and it shows a sunset, we're commenting on the sunset because it's going to the DM. And most get so fixated on the vanity metrics and they forget kind of the evolution of social media and what social became on the mobile apps. It's kind of like when your toddler walks for the first time, they take that first step and you're like so excited and you're cheering for them. If I walk into my mom's house today and she's not going to be like, you're walking, good job. Humans get lazy over time. So social has really replaced TV, and people just don't naturally like, comment, share, follow as much. Some of it is a privacy thing. They worry about getting phantom ads, but you can't allow that to dictate the success or the impact, because it's no different than people who say I'm a best-selling author and they may convince enough people to buy their book, but the book's being used as a coaster. Is that really a true measurement of impact? What about the one book sale that gets passed on to multiple people on a Excel spreadsheet, or a CFO would say, oh, the book sales were the ones that had, more impact. Well, not really when you look at the true measurement. So it's always getting laser focused on what is your measurement of success? What does success mean to you on social media? What is it that you're wanting your social media to do? And then how do we get strategic where I recently made a post, and Denise always has her own thread because everybody will copy her content, and I see it everywhere where they just try to put their logo on top of it, which, guys, y'all can always email me and we will make graphics for you. But I did one for her recently that comes to mind for her partners that was a seller concession cheat sheet. And I mean, that thing went viral. Not to mention the number of people who probably screenshotted it, because
Oh yeah.
that's my filter, is what content can we create that's screenshotable for real estate agents where they can save it in their arsenal or they can share it on social. But I want it on their real estate so that when they're at an open house and they're stuck, they're constantly looking at you as the hub of valuable content to either share the link or have it themselves that they can show. Because I do believe that is the referral of the future, is people don't even go to websites anymore. They just
That's
will
right.
share your Instagram profile or your QR code from your Instagram. And it's like, just contact me there. And so you've got to be creating content that also solves a real estate agent's biggest challenge, which is marketing. So they
Yep.
will sometimes use your content for their marketing, but it also can educate them. So a simple example is like the seller concession cheat sheet.
Yep. That's incredible. And the value based thing, and it's very difficult for a loan officer to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to create content that's shareable for a real estate agent. But I think that's where you're really truly going to get that engagement and the likes and the comments and the shares, is providing us something of value. When they post it, they're the one that gets the engagement from it.
Absolutely. Not to mention, I think another miss opportunity that some loan officers who are killing it on social, but they don't always think to do, and I do this all the time, is I teach classes for loan officers about social media. That is a sexy topic to fill a room with real estate agents. I don't work with real estate agents, but I help get butts and seats to get, hands shaken and to get potential new business that way. So I'm hearing real estate agents, hundreds in a room, multiple rooms a week, and I'm hearing from all over the country what their needs are, which also helps me craft better content. But they will ask me things like, should I have a personal account or a business account on Instagram? Or what is the difference between the two? Or what are hashtags? Are hashtags dead? And so I will send them, I'm like, that's a great question. Or they will DM me. So I just send them my link to the post I made on Instagram or my video I made on YouTube. And your social can become your non-paid sales associate or referral person by just sending the link to them. And then you teach them how to do that with their clients. And so when it's 10 p.m. and you're at the movies on a Saturday night and you have that maybe client who says, wait a minute, I'm looking at my disclosures and the cash to close is a heck of a lot higher than what you told me it would be at pre-qual. It's like, I've got a great video to answer that. It's going to go through all the details of why that happens. If you have more questions, let's schedule time on Monday, but here's a quick video that explains that, the why. And so it's just, how can you get better at one timing your business practice so that you have this educational arsenal or ways that people can learn and contact you by just being strategic about it and thinking a little bit differently with the social.
Absolutely. And you just touched on a really high level topic that I think so many people are missing, because we're going to have a lot of people that are listening to this episode that are more advanced on the marketing side of things, just because I'm, yeah, I'm kind of known for marketing. And so I get the marketing people that follow me, which is,
Kind of. You're a big deal, Chris. Let's go ahead.
no, it's not
I'll toot
like
your
that.
horn for you. You're an OG in the space.
Well, big ups to all my marketing nerds out there. But I see so many people pouring hours and hours into content and video, and it lives on social and it has that lifespan, and none of it makes it over to YouTube, and they don't get any search benefit from all of this incredible content that's out there. So can you talk about that and how you like the landscape of online advertising and how you try and tie that all together?
So that segues into a very almost like you were teeing me up on purpose, even though I know you weren't. But that is why I created a scheduling tool. And from a person who did social media for multiple accounts, I was having to log in, like I would use other social media scheduling tools because that's not a new thing, but I had to have multiple different logins because not all of them had the open API function of, I want this to go as an Instagram reel and I want this to then go on a YouTube short. And so all the different logins. And then what I didn't realize is the very fine print. It was, I thought we were paying a flat fee per month, but it was actually per post, per platform, per month. So it got to be pretty large. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna develop a tool where it has artificial intelligence and machine learning that will scan the type of video. There's multiple different types of video. It could be a 7-second video, it could be a 30-second video. Does it have a long caption, a short caption? Does it start with a question? Does it have hashtags, no hashtags? Is it a static graphic? Is it a carousel post? And so all I have to do is take that one post, because let's face it, if you're taking time to even do video and you're then manually like that, to me, that's the bigger why of why people don't then put it on YouTube or TikTok or other places, is because it's the manual process. I thought, how do we solve that? And we one time it, but I want it to be that when you drag it on a calendar square, and you could plan this out for the entire month, but it has the artificial intelligence to read the post type and based off when your audience is most active so that the post goes out at the right time, but also goes on all platforms so that you're
Wow.
everywhere every day at the right time. And so um, people often forget about YouTube, which kind of blows my mind. I don't know if it's just a lack of understanding that Google owns YouTube, but I'll tell you just from a numbers standpoint, Instagram Reels is kind of getting uh, oversupplied. It's still great, but Instagram recently changed their process where all the old IGTV, the longer form video, was converted to Reels. And as soon as they opened the API where marketers could then schedule Reels, you also had people trying to shortcut the system, which is also what marketers always do. I always say marketers ruin things over time because we overdo it. But
True.
we have those little videos that we make it seem like it's a reel and it's not a reel, but it's using trending audio. And so you kind of saw an oversupply of reels on Instagram where now it's becoming, a little bit tougher to get seen and people are forgetting TikTok and YouTube Shorts. So the one that's really killing it right now is YouTube Shorts to even over TikTok. Um, and because I think the mindset when people approach YouTube, it's a different motive. Like usually they're going there and they're probably going to be there a little bit longer because they're going to watch something to learn. And so it's different than a mindless scroll of just social where you're trying to interrupt that feed that, let's face it, they could be on the toilet or at a sales meeting board and they're not really wanting to think too hard. They're just
Yep.
wanting, it's an escape activity. So YouTube is extremely powerful because of the search, and it is the one that's almost like evergreen content where, on Instagram, you could have a really great video, but it was last month and that's not getting seen, you
Yep.
know. So um If you're not on YouTube, I would highly encourage you to check out our scheduling tool, which is on my website, and you can now one time your activity to if you're going to take the time to make a video, which hats off to you guys, because I know there's a lot of people out there who still are struggling with the courage to get on video. But if you're making the effort, then you might as well make sure it's everywhere every day without you having to manually do it all.
Well, I can just say right now to our listeners, like on my list before the end of the day, I'm signed up for that service. I
It's only
employ.
$99 a month.
Come on, are you serious?
No, $99 a month. Any industry can take it. So even offer it to your real estate agents. Like we made it very affordable.
Like I employ a full-time person in-house to be on social, and that's 1 to 2 videos a day, but they're manually going out and taking it, putting it on all the different platforms, doing all the hashtags, all that kind of stuff. It's going to save us a ton of time and money. So that's amazing.
And it has insights and reporting, and it gives you hashtag suggestions, and it will have different feeds to show you what's trending in the market center in your niche. You can respond to comments all in one dashboard. I mean, the next step to this is to be able to give branch manager positions. We call that the parent account. And then they could have child account underneath, however many they want, so that the one post on the branch account will go to all other child or children accounts to help with recruiting.
Oh, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. I mean, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I want to be respectful of your time, but maybe just a couple more questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned, okay, so let's go to hashtags.
Okay.
Because I hear the same thing. Our hashtag's dead. Is TikTok just released the search function? Did that kill the hashtags? So for a listener who's brand new in social, what are hashtags? What are they used for? Why are they so important?
So if you could now think of hashtags as a way to categorize content, it's not as much as a prioritizing content. So if I were going to speak on, say, Instagram, if your approach is to get in front of new eyeballs, what you have to think of is all of the algorithms. They're all competing. They're trying to create an addiction to their platform. Like, let's just call it what it is. They want you staying on their platform as long as possible so they can sell more ads. And so from the way that your bio is set up, and there's some strategy to this, like you want to make sure you have the basics set up so that your account can convert. And a lot of people don't even have the right account set up. So from your bio to the name tag of not your handle, but all of these things, to the hooks on your graphics, to your captions, to your hashtags, when the machine learning is scanning your profile, it's looking for who is your target audience, and is this piece of content worthy enough to send in front of the eyeballs of somebody else as suggested content on their feed based off their prehistoric behavior. So the catch to this is, if I were to make a personal development post, my pool of people is a lot bigger of a general interest in personal development. When you're talking about mortgages or home buying in the winter season, your pool is like this big, guys. So sometimes we get so fixated on, the views. And if you get, say, 100 views when your pool is this big, from a ratio standpoint of getting 100,000 views on a pool that's this big of personal development, it's like you've got to be aware enough of the ratio to say, holy cow, that was really good. 100 views. Like, how long would that have taken me to make 100 phone calls where I know it's of the eyeballs that it is intended for people who are serious about buying right now? So that is where the conversation comes of, should I have a personal account or a business account? And I always tell people both, obviously. And you look at my, say, quote, personal Instagram, it's Deborah A. Byrd. It's like a hot mess express. It shows me as a mom, shows me have some funny memes because I like humor. It shows marketing and sales. It's all of those things. So from a machine learning standpoint, they have no idea who my target audience would be to be able to send that content out in front of them. Now, my plug and play SM account is very hyper focused for the loan officer or mortgage originator who values relationship type marketing. So that pool is very small. So I'm okay with having less following, less comments, less likes, because I know every single one of those are from my hyper targeted audience. So I don't do any paid advertising. I really need to get with you, Chris, because you're the goat in that space. And I've never been a nerd on that side, just simply because I found that most loan officers, if they didn't have the systems or process or your team to help with the converting of them, then it really is like just throwing money up in the air. And yet then they'll complain about the leads. So um, that's if you're newer and you're really wanting to be hyper focused on your content, then that's where hashtags help with like the categories of maybe the chapters of the books, like first time home buyers or reverse mortgage or home buying process or home loan. Like it's got to be words that are higher on SEO that a consumer would actually search. Like most people don't necessarily search mortgage, they will do home loan. So it's, you can go to TikTok or Google or YouTube and just type in like how to buy a home, and you can see from search volume just other topics that people are searching for. And that's a good indicator of what's working. And look at those hashtags.
That's amazing. So that was valuable to me. That's phenomenal. And one other thing that I'll add in there that I see a lot of people missing is location-based hashtags. Use the
Yes.
local hashtag, use the search tip, and use that in your local marketplace. So just hashtag your city name and look at all of the other hashtags that come up for that particular city. And then, so do you see, like if I pull up hashtags and I've got 20 million posts that have happened on one hashtag and 20,000 posts that have happened on another, are you picking one over the other based on, are you looking for more volume, less volume? What does that look like?
So it's a constant testing, because as soon as you figure out the algorithm or you kind of crack the code, they then change it up again because ultimately their goal is to get people to pay for ads. So sometimes I'll do like two larger niche hashtags to then one smaller, like less than 10,000. And then I'll do maybe two smaller, one big. And so I don't typically do any more than like 7 anymore. But I will say a must is tagging your location. And that's where most people on the social search, like there's lots of ways you can be discovered, whether it's using a trending audio that someone clicked the audio from another account and they just want to get ideas. And then there you are, just on trending audio on a restaurant that they're wanting to look at. So they go to the restaurant and then they can see who else has tagged maybe that restaurant to the Explore feed, to your regular news feed. And so the social search function is huge, and it is getting more and more SEO driven, like key rich words in the very beginning and on your hook on the cover page, and even with what you verbally say in videos. It's really important you say it or you have it on the screen, because again, you're trying to tell every single post, it's like, who is this for? Who should see it? And am I clearly communicating it in all the different ways that every single post could optimize? Am I doing those activities? And so even the alt text, like most people forget about the alt text, which is for kind of similar with hashtags. You want to be very clear of what that post is about so that you can, again, it's just sending those signals is what they call it to the algorithms, the puppets. I always think of like the hand puppet guys. So they know who to send it and send them. But there's 5,300 posts every second right now.
Wow.
It's a very noisy space. So you have to remember, like, if I make a post with me and my kids and you make a post about, the new loan limits based off prehistoric behaviors, if we're competing with 5,300 posts every second, chances are more people are going to show history of liking, commenting, or engaging on content with a mom with kids versus your conforming loan limits, you know? So it's having realistic expectations and not putting yourself in that comparison gap where, we can run tools on my end and I can see how many people pay for followers, how many they've bought, how many views they pay for, how many likes they pay for, and they claim to do it all organically. And it's like, no, it's not. We
Wow.
don't ever reveal that. But what makes me sad is I have clients who are like, oh, but they have 100,000 followers. And I'm like, like 99,000 of them were bought. And let's be real, do you need 100,000 views from people from other countries?
No.
Because, so it's like, I'd rather you just become a big deal. I don't want you to appear to be like a big deal. And I know that's an ego thing and it's hard and I have empathy with all of that, but it really doesn't matter. And a recent report from the younger home buyers, they actually, when they look at follower count, you can almost lose trust if there are, like, say, 150,000, because they're immediately thinking you bought them. Almost
Yeah.
like the perfect 5-star rating. They're like, wait a minute. So your follower count actually has no validity or credibility on, are you legit at what you do? Just so everybody is aware. So quit using that metric as success.
I could not agree with that more. Oh man, Deborah, this is great. To our listeners out there, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. One final question. We started our conversation about authenticity and servitude to our marketplace and to our consumers, and I think that ties in perfectly with how do you create videos? I know there are still so many people in the mortgage space that are struggling to get on video, but then also really take their production quality to the next level. Because we're not all going to hire a videographer and have them follow us around all of the time and do all that kind of stuff. We're all user generated content. So, do you have any tips for A, the person who's just looking to get started with video, and then B, for the more advanced users, just how to put that extra little finish on it so that it really does come across well?
So for the beginners out there, and even those who have been doing video, the ones that I see that are most successful, believe it or not, are not the super polished branded videos. Because again, it comes back to delivery. And if I were to deliver a steak and lobster meal on a trash can lid, or that exact same steak and lobster meal on a silver platter, which one will people say is the better steak? And it's part of context, part of delivery. So sometimes if every video is branded perfectly, it could feel like you're just selling me, not
Yeah.
informing me. This is why typically when you make a post on a personal Facebook account versus your page, your business page, people are like, I don't know why I got so much more interaction on my personal. I'm like, well, it's because the delivery, it's like your friends, these are followers. It's like you're informing. It's not like you're selling. When it's from a business page, the motive behind it feels like, oh, maybe you're just doing this to get my business. And what loan officer's ever going to say now is not a good time to buy, right?
Yes, that's right.
So, um, believe it or not, the most viral videos that you have seen are the ones that have been done with an iPhone and maybe your AirPods. I didn't even know AirPods, where you could get away with being in a low quality area, quote, of what most would say is low quality, and they can still perform well when it's value,
Yep.
not noise. And so don't get caught up in the perfection because people actually fall in love with you because of the imperfections. And let's face it, some of the people contacting you, they may have messy credit and they may be going through a divorce or they may need grace. And so when you don't appear perfect, you're actually giving a gift to them to be imperfect as well.
Yeah.
So my first comment to the beginners is just get started. And we all suck in the beginning. Like you go back and look at my original like YouTube videos or webinars that I've done, or even the
Oh
mortgage
man.
nerds. I mean, it looked like the Blair Witch Project. Her first, in fact, truth be told, her first video, which is, I don't know if this is pathetic on my end, but most viewed one, she had a bruise on the side of her cheek because she had just gotten her wisdom teeth pulled. And at the time, we were called the Donahue team, and she had the Donahue team written on a whiteboard. She spelled our darn last name wrong. I'm like, Denise, you gotta take this down. You didn't even spell the domain correctly. And she's like, oh, nobody's going to notice because she is one of those that done is better than perfect, which is
Yeah.
probably why she was always much more successful than I was because I would overthink things and I would want it perfect. So don't do what Deb did at that time. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. Done is better than perfect, but do spell your domain correctly. Otherwise, you need to go buy that other domain and
Yeah.
redirect. But for those who are a little bit more advanced, I use a DSLR camera and there's a lot of things that you can upload or do just in the apps of TikTok. Man, they've made it so easy to edit nowadays where you don't have to have all the expensive or know-how. In fact, if you are spending the time to do those video edits, I would say some of that, the professional ones that you want done, outsource to someone like myself where we can take care of it for you. The ones that you need to be able to do quickly because maybe you're showing an LE and you're showing where, this lender's offering you a 2% rate, but charging you about 40 grand, those little things that you want to point out. Um, always make sure you have captions because most people aren't listening to the audio, they're reading it, and the words also tell the algorithms what your content is about. So
Yep.
always make sure that you have the captions. Music, trending audio is important. You can just Google like trending audio this week on Instagram, or I have an app called Trend Talk that will show you for the US what the trending audio is for TikTok. And so I can't express enough how important, just even with setting the mood of the type of music that is helping with the story that you're telling. And then just being aware of your nonverbals.
Hmm.
So smile, have energy. If you're talking about something, like use some animation, sometimes walking around, or I've done one before where I'm literally putting my makeup on and people just end up watching, because we're all ADD at this point. And they're like watching me apply my makeup while I'm giving a valuable message, but it gives them something to stay engaged because we're so rude. Like the way we swipe, if you watch people, it's like next, 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 next. It's like your content's not good enough. I'm going to keep scrolling. But those little tweaks. Oh, and this is the biggest one. If you're doing reels, please make sure when you look at the cover page, you need a hook, which is just
Hmm.
the text that tells the audience what the video is about. Because when they land on your feed, if you don't have a hook, they see it's a video, but it's you like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is that video about to entice me to click on it to
Yep.
watch? Because if there's nothing there to draw me in, then it just looks like a bunch of videos and you're spending all this time creating it. Small little tweaks will help you get more optimization and more conversion by just taking the time to do it the right way.
Yeah, that is so valuable. Deborah, thank you so much for the knowledge that you shared here today. This is absolutely fantastic. Where do people go to find out about you, your services? How do they connect with you on social media?
So the biggest thing, if you go to plug and play underscore, and you do spell out the and, so it's plug and play underscore SM. I always tell people, like they'll ask me, is SM your initials? I'm like, no, my name is Deborah Byrd. So SM is meant for social media. That was just way too long. So if you go to plug and play underscore SM on Instagram, you will see I have a link in my bio, which is called Linktree. It's another great gem for all of you. Everyone should have a Linktree account in your bio because it makes it very easy for people to follow me on other platforms that you may be on. So I'm on all of them. Obviously, you can contact me there. You can schedule a free discovery call. You can look at our packages. Everything is in that one link. And Chris, I actually send that link out now, probably more than my website link, because it's
Yep.
just easy, click, troubleshoot, like, what am I looking for? Boom, there you go. So, or it's Deborah A. Byrd. Byrd is spelled BYRD, and first name is Deborah. It's the long biblical spelling for those wondering, but um, Deborah Byrd or Plug and Play SM.
That is amazing. Well, again, thank you for being on the show. To all of our listeners, that was worth a 5-star review on iTunes. So head on over to iTunes, hit us up with a 5-star review. It helps us get more incredible guests like Deborah on the show. If you're watching this on social, make sure that you hit that like button. Leave us a comment below with your number one takeaway from the episode. And make sure you share this, because in the mortgage community, all of us learning together, rising tides rise all ships. And we're all in this for the long haul, and we want the best for you. So again, Deborah, thank you so much for being here.
You are welcome. Thank you.